Hi everyone, my name is Yue Yu and I'm a postdoc from Rutgers University, Newark. This is a video abstract for our new publication in Developmental Science, and the co-authors are Drs. Ashley Landrum, Elizabeth Bonawitz, and Bonawitz Shafto. So our paper is about how different pedagogical methods affect children's learning and exploration. This research topic is inspired by a long debate in education and developmental psychology about the benefits and costs of teacher-centered direct instructions versus student-centered active learning. One recent study by Bonawitz and Shafto et al. Has shown that when presenting preschoolers with a novel toy that affords multiple functions, intentionally instructing them about one of the functions will lead to effective learning of that function, but at the cost of limited exploration and learning of other functions. So our question is, how can teachers optimize instructions to effectively transmit knowledge while also fostering further learning? In this study, we explore whether rephrasing direct instructions into questions can help. So we designed a novel toy that has 5 functions. And the target function is pushing a button to make the tower light up. In experiment 1, we have 120 children who are 4 and 5 years of age, and they were randomly assigned to 4 conditions. For all conditions, the novel toy was presented to children by 2 adults, 1 experimenter and 1 confederate. The experimenter first explained that she knows all about the toy, and the confederate knows nothing about the toy. The direct instruction condition replicated the previous study, in which the knowledgeable experimenter intentionally taught children to push the button. In the pedagogical question condition, the experimenter points to the button and asks, "What does this button do?" Because it was explained first that the experimenter knows all about the toy, it is clear from the context that the question is used to teach. In the information-seeking question overheard condition, children heard the exact same question, but from a naive confederate. During pilot testing, we figured that if the naive confederate directly asks children a question, some children will still assume the confederate is trying to teach them. So instead, in this condition, the confederate asks the question towards the experimenter, and the child overheard it. Finally, to control for the effect of whether children were asked or overheard the question, we also included a 4th condition in which the experimenter asked the confederate a pedagogical question, and the children overheard it. Because our theory assumes that children interpret information based on the knowledge state of the questioner and not to whom the question was addressed to, we hypothesized that their response would be similar whether they are asked or overheard a pedagogical question, but that should be different from when they overheard an information-seeking question. For all conditions, the experimenter then left the child alone to play with the toy, and the video recording was coded with regard to whether children learned the target function and whether they explored the toy more broadly. For the results, first, there was no difference between 4 and 5-year-olds, so data from the 2 age groups were combined. We first look at information transmission. Just as a reminder, the hypothesis here is that both direct instruction and pedagogical question, whether asked or overheard, should be more effective in transmitting information than information-seeking question. The measurement for information transmission is the proportion of children who push the button to activate the target function during their free play. Turns out the hypothesis was confirmed. So similar portions of children activated the target function after the direct instruction and pedagogical question conditions, and when aggregated, they were significantly higher than the information-seeking question condition. So pedagogical questions are as effective as direct instructions in teaching the target function. Next, we looked at exploration and further learning. So the hypothesis here is that direct instruction restrains exploration and further learning, and pedagogical questions do not have this restraining effect. To test this hypothesis, we performed planned contrast with -2 weight for direct instruction and +1 weight for the 2 pedagogical question conditions. So if the planned contrast is significantly above 0, then the hypothesis is confirmed. The first outcome variable we looked at is total playtime, which is a measure of how long children engage with exploration. the planned contrast turned out to be significant. So children who heard a pedagogical question explored longer than children who received direct instructions. The same pattern holds for the number of unique actions children performed on the toy, so children also tried a large variety of actions after a pedagogical question than direct instruction. And they also discovered more non-target functions after a pedagogical question than direct instruction. So experiment 1 showed that there's an overall difference between direct instruction and pedagogical question. However, the language used in the two conditions are slightly different, which may lead to alternative explanations. Also, the experimenter demonstrated the target function in the direct instruction condition, but not in the pedagogical question conditions. So in experiment 2, we further control these factors by carefully matching the language and action used in the two conditions, so the only difference is instruction versus question. Results of experiment 2 were consistent with experiment 1, so children still learned the target function similarly after direct instruction and the pedagogical question, and they explored more broadly and discovered more non-target functions after a pedagogical question. In conclusion, this study shows that when introducing children to a novel toy that possibly affords many causal functions, reframing a direct instruction into a question may be as effective in transmitting information while not restraining exploration and further learning. But this only happens when it is clear that the questioner is attempting to teach. These findings suggest that a teacher's choice of pedagogical methods may differentially influence learning through their choice of how and how not to present evidence.